Indiana Choice Scholarship Program explained. I'm excited to bring this video to you today. The program has been around, but there's been some recent changes that have made the program available to a lot more people than it used to be. So what is the Indiana Choice Scholarship Program? As you can see here, it's the state of Indiana. It's basically the state paying money towards the cost of tuition and fees for students to attend private school in lieu of attending public school. Yeah, when we first heard of the program, it was from the finance person at our kids' private school, and we were amazed. I didn't know this existed. I had no idea that Indiana had a program that would pay for you to go to private school, but they do, and our kids actually, it works out for our family. All right, the voucher program, like I said, it's been around for many years, but the income limits were relatively low, so not a lot of people qualified for it, but the state significantly raised the income limits, and so now a lot of people that didn't used to can apply and qualify for the program. Is this for real? Yes. And we got when the income limits were raised, our school finance person sent out an email to us. And then the information, they included a fact that over half of the students at our school, and we live in Northwest Indiana, and over half of our students qualified for the full voucher from the state of Indiana, with the majority of them qualifying via the SGO scholarship track. And we'll dig into what that is, the SGO. Yeah. So in this video, we're going to cover so the scholarship name is the Indiana Choice Scholarship Program. It's most often called the Voucher Program. Just want to get that clear, because sometimes you'll hear voucher, sometimes you'll hear Choice Scholarship. It's most oftenly called the Voucher Program. There's 8 different tracks to qualify. We'll dig in what that means. Here's the requirements. We'll talk about there's finance requirements, a few other requirements. Talk about how much money is the grant. That's usually the big question is, do I qualify? How do I qualify? And how much money will that provide me? 5, we'll get into FAQ. We'll talk about how to apply. And of course, we got to throw in some random dad jokes. Hey, before kicking off, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Tony Anczer. My wife and I are real estate agents in Illinois and Indiana. Our contact info is here. And again, we have partners throughout the U.S. And we do these videos to help our viewers and to just bring information about living in Illinois and Indiana. Yeah, we receive messages every week from people like you, and you, who are looking to move to the area or just get more information about living in Illinois and Indiana. That's why we do these videos. We love to hear from you guys, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Our contact info is here, or feel free to ask any questions, respond to all our comments on YouTube as well. And check out our links below for other videos about living in Illinois and Indiana. And if you do us a solid and hit that like and subscribe to the video, it really helps the channel grow and helps others know about this content we're putting out. All right, getting straight into the content. Yeah, so there are 8 different tracks to qualify. And so what are these tracks? So tracks means that there's the requirements of where you live, where your income is, but then, so once you qualify, you then have to get onto a different track. So kind of think of like tracks on the lanes. You got to find one way to get you into the program. And we'll dig into what these are. I won't read through them all because we'll dig into each one individually, but these are the different tracks that there are to get into the program. All right, dad joke number 1. When does a joke become a dad joke? You ready? When it becomes apparent. All right, now I got that one out of the way. Requirements. So there's 8 different tracks, and the requirement of all the tracks, except for one, but all the 7 tracks, and then one has a different one, but for all 7 of the 8, you have to have a legal settlement. They use the word settlement, which basically means Indiana has to be the state that you live in. 2, you have to be at least 5 years of age by August 1st of the previous school year and less than 22 years of age. And 3, there's the foster track. And the only requirement on the foster track is that you have to live in Indiana. And we'll get more into the weeds on that in a minute here. All right, so this is kind of the big question everyone wants to know is like, okay, what's the income limits? So there is these income limits here we'll get into. It is 300% of the free / reduced lunch eligibility limits. And so what this means here is that this says your household size, how many people in your household is the income limit to qualify. So they have 1, I'm not sure how you could have 1 and have a kid in school, but so if you had 3, or I guess 2 here could be like a single parent with a child. So if your income for a parent and one child is less than 101,000, you could qualify. For a household of 3, it'd be like, 2 parents and a kid, or 1 parent and 2 kids. You got 120, just about 8,000. Here, household of 4, 154,000. Household of 5, up to 180,000. Household of 6, 206,000. Household of 7, 232,000. And so on and so forth. Household of 8, 258,000. Household of 9, 284,000. And a household of 10, 311,000. So again, these are the income limits based on how many people in your house, so that you can let you know if you would possibly qualify based on income. So again, if your income is less than this number here and this column for the number of people in your household on the left side, then you meet the income limits requirement. All right, so now we're going to get into track 1. So for track 1, the special education track. So again, I won't go into all of in detail on 1 and 2 for most of these because they're the same. So this one, number 1 here, is that you have to meet the income limits we just talked about and the settlement. So I'll skip over those because it's the same for every single one except the foster track. And then so 2 is for the special education track is you have to have a disability that requires special education. And so with that, what the other criteria of that is, and it's basically if you meet this, then you would most likely have item 3, which is you have to have an individualized education program, IEP, or sometimes they're called service plan, SP. So that's track 1. All right, track 2 is, again, income settlement, but pre-K. So pre-K, track 2 is that if you have received and used an early education grant under the IC to attend pre-K at an eligible choice scholarship school, and then if you have to be applying for a choice scholarship at the same choice scholarship school they attended pre-K with an early education grant. So that could be the track to get in on the pre-K track, to track 2. So track 3, the F public school track. So this, I'm going to start off with the caveat that due to COVID, this is not possible to qualify for this current school year as the time of this recording, because during the COVID, they didn't do the school rankings. So the ranking is based on like the previous school year, and as the time of this recording, COVID was still going on, and so they didn't use that ranking system. But if they did, for this track would be like this basically means that if where you live, if they're in the school district, you have to be required to attend a specific public school based on the residence that has been assigned to an F grade. So that means that if your kid, if the public school they would go to received an F grade, then that you would meet this. And again, this parentheses here says that you didn't have to attend that. So let's say you moved into you're new to the area, you just moved in, your kid's in 4th grade or whatever, they haven't gone to the public school yet, but that public school is F grade, then they meet the requirement, the track based on the F school public school track. And again, I just said here the 8F scoring isn't used. Yeah, we talked about that. All right, track 4. Previous choice scholarship student track. So this is actually the track that my kids are now in. They got in through the SGO, but now they continue because of this track. So again, we have the income and the settlement, but 2 is they have to receive a choice scholarship in a preceding school year, including a school year that does not immediately precede the school year for which the student is applying for a choice scholarship. So this basically just means that if your child has previously had a choice scholarship, it could have been 2 years ago, maybe you're in the program and then you incomed out and then you incomed back in. I don't think I used the right tense of income there, but if you see where that's going, then as long as your kid was in the program before, then they can continue to be in, because the immediately preceding is a phrase that you'll see returning on these different tracks. All right, track 5, the previous SGO track. So this is saying that they have received a scholarship award from a scholarship granting organization, SGO, in a previous school year, including a school year that does not immediately precede the school year for what that student is applying the choice scholarship. And what this jargon here is a mouthful, is that when they just say immediately preceding, that means sometimes if it says immediately preceding, that means that it has to have happened like the year directly before the year we're in. This, when it says does not immediately precede, then that means that as long as your kid had a SGO grant at some time, it could have been 3 years ago, and then you were out of this, say 3 years ago they were at a private school and received the SGO, but then you're in the public school for a while, and then you go back to private school, that since your kid previously had the SGO, then they would qualify. And we already talked about that. And explaining what the SGO is important. So what an SGO is, like at our kids' school, and that's how, again, my kids got in the program, is that the school itself raised money so that they could give the kids a SGO grant. So again, SGO means Scholarship Granting Organization, which just means a school that chooses to participate in giving their own kids scholarships. So what our school did is like every year they send out an email and says something like, hey, we're raising money for SGO grants. Would you please contribute? So people contribute, the school gets this pot of money, and then they're able to give kids an SGO grant, of which I think for us it was like $500 the first year. So like before we were in the grant program, that first year we applied for the SGO grant, we got $500 towards our tuition. That was it for the years. We paid all our tuition, except we got $500 of SGO money. And then the next year we were able to qualify for the full voucher amount because the previous year we had the SGO grant. So hope that makes sense. And again, feel free to reach out to me or make a comment and I can clarify any of this. And then here we have, at this link is the different schools that do participate. And when I looked through this, it seemed like it wasn't, oh no, okay, actually this link got more inclusive since I looked at it last. So yeah, this should be all the schools that qualify or that are in the program. So you want to look through here and that links up here. So again, this is city, county, SGO partnered with school name. And again, so that's all available at this link. And you can catch it here, or I can put in the comments if anybody has a question, feel free to reach out about that. All right. So track 6. Track 6 is the foster track. So the foster track, there is no income limit. So all you have to do, you just have to live in the state, and then there's no income limit. So you can make $1 gazillion a year and still qualify for this track. And then the child has to be placed in foster care as defined in this. I'm not sure what that means. If you understand foster language, and you probably do. And then you have to provide supporting documentation from a DCS caseworker. All right. So now track 7. So track 7 is the 2 semesters in a public school track. So again, we have the income and the settlement. We already talked about that multiple times. I won't bore you with that again. So what this definition is that you have to have been enrolled in the kindergarten through grade 12 in a public school, including a charter school, in Indiana for at least 2 semesters immediately preceding the first semester for which the individual receives a choice scholarship. So this would be like, say you're starting your private school, but your kid previously, for the previous 2 semesters immediately preceding, so let's say they did a full school year in first grade in the public school, and then you switch to private school, then that would meet the requirement of the 2 semesters immediately preceding. Yes. So again, in summary, last year you went to public school, not private, public school, and then you jump to private school, then you meet the criteria for here. So that'd be track 7. All right, now track 8. This one is pretty nice because once you do the paperwork one time for one kid, then when your next kid enters, you're pretty much already ready to go. Yes, like for example, say you have kid number 1 who's in a private school and they received either the choice scholarship or a SGO grant, and then so they've say they're first grade, second grade, they got one of those, so they're in the program, and then the younger kid enters school, say there's a 4-year gap or whatnot. So as long as the kid number 1 in a preceding school year, any preceding, again, it's including a school year that does not immediately precede. So as long as you had a kid in the program, then that means kid number 2 or subsequent kids will also qualify for this track. All right, so now we got, this is dad joke number 2, not number 1, but what is the Easter Bunny's favorite type of music? All right. It is hip hop. Hip hop. All right. That is the last dad joke, so you've gotten through it. Thanks for humoring me. All right, so let's get into the FAQs here. So the amount varies by school district. So what does that mean? That means the amount of how much the program is depends on what school district you're in. But look at number 2 here. It's generally in the same range of like $5,800 to $6,400. At the time of this recording, it's generally $5,800 to $6,400 for the entire year per kid. So if you have 2 kids, then they'd each get, that bandwidth of money for if you qualify. And so it can be used for tuition and fees. So like, let's say tuition's $5,000, but you've got $300 of fees for application or whatever it is, then you can add up if this limit is, if the state's limit is higher than what your school charges, then they basically cover all of it. If the tuition and fees is more, then you would have to pay the difference. All right, so here we're going to click on here, and we're going to see some detail on. We won't go through, all of them. There's quite a number of school districts in Indiana, but this just shows you the amounts. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So we'll just scan through a couple. Blackford County Schools. So that amount for the year per kid is up to $6,400. Let's randomly take Decatur County Community Schools. That's $6,081.93. So on and so forth. We got Gary Community. Here we go. Where's Gary at? Gary Community School Corp. Oh, that one's the highest. I didn't notice that earlier. $7,574.97, and so on and so forth. You can see that. But generally speaking, the range from looking through it is about $5,800 to $6,400. Obviously, there's some outliers in there. All right. So how are payments made? So we'll get into the application process in a minute here. Yeah, but how the payments are made, it's really cool because once you get it set up, the school and the state work together. So once you get into the program, then it's pretty hands off for you as a parent or administrator of it. Is that you just the state pays the school directly and it gets credited to your account. So we get a statement every month that says how much we owe, and then it's it's hardly anything anymore thanks to this lovely program. And then another FAQ is the most common proof of family income to see if you meet the income limits is the adjusted gross income shown on your 2021 or 2022, I guess now, federal form 1040. So you got Jerry McGuire here saying, show me the money, or depending on your tax accountant, you might not be showing the money. But anywho, that's what you have to do to meet if you meet the income requirements. All right, so how do you apply? I'll dig into the weeds a little bit, but it's basically it goes through your school. So you contact your private school to confirm if they participate in the voucher program. And again, voucher is the other jargon for this. And the application overview for this, we'll just click on this to see what it brings us to. There's a lot of information here. I'll just kind of go through some of the highlights. We covered most of this already. This item 4 is relatively important. So this talks about timelines, but this says here, the work with the approved choice school to complete the choice scholarship application. We talked about that. And then the application will be submitted by the school with information provided by you via password protected website that the only school administrators in. So you'll actually apply to your school. The school will administer it. They'll usually send out an email to membership and say, hey, if you're interested, fill out the application and we'll submit for you or review it and give you guidance on if you apply, if you qualify or not. And then items 6 and 7 are kind of important too. So it says if a student is approved for the choice scholarship, the school will provide the parent guardian with a copy of the award letter at the time of the student's award is approved. So again, the state, so you communicate with the school and the school communicates with the state, and that's how the communication goes. So you won't really communicate directly with the state much at all on this. So the award letter will detail the estimated amount of scholarship. And at the time of award, you'll get an estimate of how much the award will be. The choice school will provide you with an updated award letter detailing the final amount of the scholarship amount. And then this too, keep in mind that as you plan for your students' enrollment at a choice school, that the actual award amount for the school year, or this is 2022, 2023, or whatever year you're in, may increase, decrease, or remain unchanged after the final awards are calculated. Yeah, and at our school, our finance person, shout out to Paulette, you do a great job, Paulette. We actually got an email recently that said, hey, we just got the new calculation for what the state's contributing. It's gone up this year, so there's actually a credit in your account now of $200 to $240. So that's always a nice surprise, and it's kind of like in Monopoly when it's like bank's air in your favor or something. So that was always a nice email. Usually it's the other way. Usually getting pinged because you owe money for some reason. But yeah, so it's actually nice to get even more of a refund. And then here, if a student is denied the choice scholarship, the school will provide the parent guardian with a copy of the denial letter at the time the student's application is processed. And this denial letter outlines the steps for you to follow to believe that if your application was denied in error. So that would be the one time that you'd hear directly from the state on this. All right, so checking out the application instructions packet. So this website just has all the nitty gritty of everything. We covered all of this stuff. We talked about how to apply, the award amounts, participating schools, student eligibility, the different tracks. We covered that stuff. verification rules. This gets into details on the income verification, some other good stuff there. So if you want more information, this website would be for your next stop. Cool. Yeah, so that concludes our Indiana Choice Scholarship, again, also called the Voucher program. That concludes our tutorial on how the program works, how to apply. Hope that answers most of your questions. I'm sure there'll be some other questions. Feel free to reach out. You can comment below or reach out to me, and I'll guide you as best I can. And again, if you got any value out of this, if you give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, it will just keep you in the loop on other information that we're providing about living in Illinois and Indiana. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.